I'm just delighted that you reached out. I'm kind of nervous. I've never been on a podcast before.
Oh, well, thank you for agreeing to be on mine.
Hey,
Oh,
life's all about taking risks, huh?
it is about taking risks, and you do take a lot of risks. So I'm
I
going to
do.
go ahead and start the show, if that's okay with you.
Go ahead.
All right, welcome to God and Matter. My name is Arlene J.M. Grant, and I'm your host. Today, my guest is Paul John Deere. Paul is a fascinating person. I say that about most people because those are the kind of people that I connect with. He is an artist, he's a drummer, he is interested in the well being of others, and he has an amazing story which I want him to tell. Paul, that's who I say you are, but who are you?
Oh boy, the big question. Um, so hey, morning, and thanks for inviting me onto your show. It's a real honor to be speaking with you. Who am I? I'm a rhythmical alchemist with a heart-centered approach to life and uh, a consciousness that I guess would be called in these days mindful. So I try to step consciously in my life. I try to be present wherever I can and to have my heart open. That's my kind of guiding light. And of course, I'm human, and I don't always get to hit the bullseye with that. But my intention is really, if I was boiling it all down, the tagline for my company is connecting people through music. So really, that's at the heart of what I do, is creating a space for people to connect with themselves in a deeper way, and because of that, to connect with other people in a deeper way. I guess that's the summation.
That's beautiful. I do believe in the power of music. How did you come to understand the power of music and decide to use it as a way to connect people?
Wow. Um, Great question. So I think music has always been kind of a really vital force in my life. Before I was able to play music, I was really able to listen to it, and I can track music through my life. I was raised in my parents are Irish, and they had left Ireland and moved to England to start a new life and go where the streets were paved with gold. And the reality turned out to be very different for them. But one thing I remember about my life growing up was music in the house. Neither of my parents were musicians, but they loved music. So my mom was a huge Elvis fan, and my dad was into Little Richard and Fats Domino. And so I grew up listening to just amazing music. And what I always connected with in any piece of music was the rhythm. I just was a drummer from the get-go, from the beginning. I could pick up a rhythm. I could hear it, I could feel it, and I could tap it out on a cardboard box. So rhythm was something that spoke to me from very, very early in my life. And then, I went through a regular life. I did well at school. I went to university, the first person in our family to get a place at university. And then I dropped out. Then I kind of turned the corner and I started my rebellious phase, and I broke out of the what felt like a straitjacket to me. I was raised in a very strictly Catholic religious household, and by 18, 19, I was starting to feel like the picture was bigger. So I was pushing the edge of the box, and when you rebel, sometimes you come up against the first of the many obstacles in your life, and people that you're close to, and you're finding that you're disagreeing and you don't see things the same way. And where do I go with this? Do I just hold my tongue and stay in line, or do I push the envelope and see what happens? So I've always been an envelope pusher. So I broke out, and me and my folks had some words, and I said, look, it's my life. I have to go find my own passion and my own thing. And so I dropped out of university and I bought myself a set of congas and started kind of jamming and playing music. And I guess, I began to explore what I felt was my inner life for the first time, as opposed to following a path that had been handed to me by other people who I love dearly, but It's their life, not my life. I got to figure out my own way here. So off I went. The dropout thing didn't last very long. I met someone, she got pregnant. Before you know it, we've got 3 kids, and life has changed completely. And any ideas that I had about music for a full-time occupation were put on a shelf. And I got my head down, and I got a well-paid job, and I built a career for myself in sales. We moved to a beautiful house. We had it all. It was all there. We had the income. I had a beautiful wife, 3 children, and approaching the sort of end of my 20s, early 30s, my parents were proud of me. Everybody was like, he got it together. The guy that dropped out of university, he's cut his hair short now. He looks smart. He's clean. And I was probably the most miserable I've ever been in my life.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, this is not me. I'm doing all this for all the right reasons. I'm taking care of my family, but like my soul is shriveling up. So I had the hard conversation with my partner, and turns out that she knew anyway, of course. And at that point, we made a huge shift in our lives. I gave up work. She went back to work, having been at home with the kids mostly. She'd done some part-time work. And then I just started really exploring the world of rhythm. So I traveled to West Africa for the first time, studied with some amazing teachers there. I went to North Africa, Morocco. I started looking up, teachers in the UK that were from various traditions. And I just threw myself into the drumming and started to offer workshops in schools in the local community. It's like, hey, when I left my organization in sales, I left with a kind of a handshake. So they gave me a little money, which helped me to set up the business. And I bought a van, and I bought some drums, and I just offered them to the local community for free. It's like, hey, I got some stuff here. I got some ideas, but they're not formed. So I need to practice. So can I come into your school and work with the kids every week? And they were like, duh, of course. So I got to play with a group of children for the best part of a year and develop a program, which became the mainstay of my work for the following 20 years. So the drum changed my life in that moment, sort of early mid-30s, when I gave up being a suit and working in the corporate world to follow my passion, Joseph Campbell's follow your bliss moment. Everything changed. And I look back on that as a hugely pivotal moment in my life. I got to travel to Africa. I got to meet some of the most incredible artists and human beings. Some of my greatest mentors have been from that culture. Sadly, a number of them in the last couple of years have passed away because of their age. But yeah, life changed. Going to Africa was a hugely life-changing moment.
Well, first, I'm sorry that you've lost your mentors, but I'm extremely glad that you found your way. You talked about feeling like less than whole. So do you feel whole now? I'm the queen of questions.
You picked up on the pause, and the pause was part of my mindful practice, because when somebody lands such a beautiful question on you, it deserves a little thinking. The answer to the question is yes and no. I mean, it's one of those paradoxes, right? I mean, I am absolutely more in alignment with what I believe my purpose is now than I ever was then. But I was in the alignment that I needed to be in then. So for me, it's not, I don't look back and think I was doing the wrong thing then. I was where I needed to be then to get where I needed to get then. And I'm where I need to be now to do what I'm here to do now, But in terms of how my day looks, oh my God, so much more whole. I mean, I love my day now, Then there was some stresses in the day. I was, selling products and having to meet targets, and the pressure was high, and I was really good at it. I was knocking the numbers out of the park, but felt like I was walking up the wrong road. And when you have that ghost on your shoulder saying, psst, hey, you're supposed to be over there, it takes it, you got to stop and listen. And then it's like, am I going crazy? Everything in my life is great. Who am I to complain about this? I've got a job, beautiful house. I have a nice car. I have 3 beautiful children, a wife, and all, I have everything. How can I be complaining? How can I not be okay with this? And yet this voice was like, okay, you carry on, but I ain't going away. I'm going to sit here on your shoulder until you pay attention to me. So that's that dance, right? Of at what point do I really get connected to the voice that's mine and get to really understand that this is the voice that I have to pay attention to more than any other, you know? And my belief is that that particular voice has a resonance. Again, we're back to rhythm and a frequency that I feel now. I don't think it. It's like, oh, if I feel like this, I have to go there. It's not even a question anymore. You know, if I want to struggle with it, I'm just going to create struggle for myself. But this is the voice that's calling me, and I recognize it now. And it's scary. Never gets any less scary. It's still scary when it says, okay, go there. And I'm like, really? I'm okay here. It's like, no, no, you have to go there now.
Yeah, it's true. That voice is very real. That voice is very demanding. And I think that's our authentic self.
I agree.
Piece of existence, it transfers into a piece of thriving and truly living.
Right.
You know?
I couldn't agree more. I also think it's a reflection of a deeper reality, this voice. It's like a transcendental me, you know? It's like a me that exists beyond the physical me. It's something, it's just, you know, it's the indigenous Native American culture used the phrase great mystery to describe this, which really has always resonated with me. It's not something I can intellectually understand, but in my life and in my practice, I have witnessed this sense of being that presents itself that I trust. I have been told by some people along the road that I'm a little crazy. And if I have to choose which side of the line to be on, I guess I'm on the crazy side.
But there's crazy that's bad, and then there's crazy that creates, and crazy is a product of love. And
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
what you have is that.
Crazy
And
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's the fearlessness or the embracing of what others would fear to do. Not many people have the courage.
I think it's not fearlessness, because I definitely feel fear, but it's an embracing of the fear is, I'm okay with fear. Fear is a really powerful signal. And in some instances, fear is like, get out of here now because your life is in danger. And that's, I don't want to be numb to fear. It's a good thing. And then there are other kinds of fear that just are saying, okay, this is going to up your game. Stepping into this experience is going to up your game. It's going to expand your consciousness. It's going to bring you more fully into who you are. And, any kind of growing involves a little stretch, right? A little discomfort, or maybe a lot of discomfort. But I'm okay. I've learned, I can't make mistakes, but I can stop learning if I close my mind and my heart. And I don't want to. I want to keep learning. I want to be open to new experiences, and I want to keep on pushing through. I'm 57 years old this year, and I'm constantly in conversations with people who are saying, so what about retirement? I'm like, that's not even a thought. I'm like more alive now than I was when I was 21. I'm so full of energy, and I'm taking care of myself in a way that I never did before. And I'm like, I'm just getting going here. At 57, who cares? What numbers, right? For me, it's like, I'm good. It's a number. Who cares?
I think that's very wise to not limit your living to a number. Your living, to me, should not be limited at all unless you're hurting someone, but
right.
Including yourself. But I do believe that it's important to taste life every day,
right.
because there are new opportunities that exist. Sometimes it's just tasting, a piece of food, but there's still a new opportunity that exists each day. So when you talk about that wholeness that you have now, you're no longer in Ireland. You're someplace remote that we're speaking from. Where are you?
Okay, so my parents came from Ireland. I was born in England. I was born in a northern town called Manchester.
Okay.
And I traveled around with work, and my ex-wife now and the 3 children that we raised together moved to various places until we found a spot that was like, this is the good place to raise the children. And so we did the parenting thing. We've raised a beautiful family. We have decided to go our separate ways in the last few years. And again, it's was a transformative period for both of us, painful and difficult, and ultimately the right thing. I moved to Scotland 7 years ago, and I live in a tiny log cabin off grid. That's
Oh,
my
wow.
home. So I have this little wooden cabin at the foot of a almost mountain. It's not quite a mountain. It's like a couple of 100 feet short of a mountain, but it's a beautiful area. And I'm attached to a venue there where I run a lot of the programs that I do when I'm in Scotland. At the moment, I'm in Kuala Lumpur. So I left my home 8 months ago to go do a little bit of work for 3 months was the original plan. And because of the whole COVID thing, got locked down here in Kuala Lumpur. So I haven't been home in 8 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what does that feel like?
It kind of feels okay. I have a girlfriend here in Kuala Lumpur. So, I was blessed to get locked down with her. So we've had this incredible 4 months of being locked in an apartment together, and the lockdown rules were really strict here. So we weren't allowed out of the building apart from a shopping trip once a week, and only one of us was allowed to be in the vehicle to do that. So we've had this incredible deep dive. We're 1 year into a relationship, and then we've had this 3-month intensive. It's like, okay, so, you guys think this relationship is maybe a good one and a big deal. We're going to test it. We're going to lock you down for 3 months together in a small apartment, and you're going to get to know each other real well. So we've just had this incredible experience, because all my work was canceled. I wasn't able to travel or drum. So here we just were like, okay, we have this opportunity now to do something that we might not be able to do in our normal day. Rather than be like, oh God, we're locked down, we're like, wow, we're locked down. So our meditation practice has become amazing. We've been eating incredible foods. We have a kind of food ritual first thing in the morning, then we do our meditation together, then we do some exercise, then we work, and we've been working together on creating a wellness program. She's an integrative health coach and a heart math practitioner. So her health coaching stuff and my rhythmical stuff, we basically have taken the 3 months in lockdown to develop a program, which we want to roll out in real time, but we may have to roll out online to start with. So we're building the website at the moment. We almost have all the content. So we've had this incredible, like, lockdown was a blessing kind of vibe going on.
I love that. I feel the same way, that it has been a blessing for me. I've started painting more, stepping out and moving more into a
Wow.
virtual space and building and rebranding.
Cool.
So it's been an opportunity. And I started this podcast in the midst
Nice.
of the coronavirus time. It was in my mind for 2 years, but when there was all this extra time.
Wow.
Okay.
What a great idea.
I'm
Is that one of your paintings behind you?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Nice backdrop.
Thank you. I like to do abstract work, and this is part of my Cosmos collection. So let's talk about,
just the final thing. You were like, how is it being away from home for 8 months? I think in the last few years, I've literally circumnavigated the globe twice in the last 24 months. I've worked in Australia, I've worked in the US, I've worked in India, I've worked in Colombia. I've been all over the place, and I feel like, certainly until COVID happened, I was being called to just go out and do the work that I was called to do. So home, it's a cliche, but home is where I am. I mean, I have this place at home. It's a beautiful retreat space, but if I'm doing the work that I love, I'm at home. And then I got locked down, and it's like, okay, what work can I do here? So we've been doing a different kind of work here. So it doesn't mean I don't have bad days, and sometimes I don't miss my little cabin and the views and the smell of the ground there and the friends that I have in that part of the world, but I'm kind of home where I am.
that to me says that you are comfortable with who you are.
I'm comfortable with who I am. Yeah. And you know, all of it, the shadow too. This not a kind of new age woo woo comfortable with, you know, just the light. I mean, I've done some diving in the last few years into the darker part of myself.
Do you want to talk about that diving? You recently celebrated an anniversary.
I did. I celebrated a year of no alcohol in my system. And
Congratulations.
thank you very much. I mean, I am enormously proud of it, and I get kind of emotional when I think about it that I did this because growing up in an Irish family, you know, I was drinking at 15 years old, and nobody is to blame. My choice all the way. Um, it just became a normal thing for me to be drinking constantly, and I think during the breakup of my marriage, I was drinking more than was good for me, and because I had normalized the process, I didn't notice. I really didn't notice, even though there's a part of you that always does. You know, the part of me that wakes up in the morning and thinks maybe I drank a little bit too much last night, you know, but I'm having an emotionally difficult time, so it's okay. And then you know, the following night I would do the same again. So I kind of fell in a hole. And over the years, I've had a couple of really difficult times with depression. So and now when I look back, I can see the link with the alcohol abuse and the depression. You know that it doesn't help, but you think it's helping because you've created this story that, you know, this is what you do when things get difficult emotionally. The culture I was raised in was, you know, be a man, tough it up, um, don't cry, all that stuff, you know. And I've done a lot of therapy in my life. I've done a lot of shamanic journeying. I've been in all kinds of situations where I've done powerful healing and releasing work, but there was still some part of me that was not okay. And so I think after the marriage breakup, I kind of hit the bottle too hard, and then work pulled me out into the world. It's like, okay, you know, I'm disappearing down a hole, and so I had to, you know, get back on the horse and go gallop off around the world and be the, you know, the guy that I am that runs the workshop. And it's kind of interesting when you're out front and everybody's like, wow, this is amazing, and the work you do is amazing, and inside you feel like crap, like you're a fraud. Because I know I'm going to go back to my hotel and I'm going to drink 4 or 5 whiskeys before I sleep. And so the juxtaposition of the I'm okay, I'm not okay going on in me had just reached its nadir. I was like, this has got to change. Uh, and then I met Charlene, who's my current girlfriend. She's a health coach. She is the brightest button on planet Earth. I mean, she just exudes health and joy. You just look at her and you light up because of the way she is. And, you know, we got into some conversations. There was a connection. And, you know, I was smoking at the time as well. So I'm smoking and drinking. And she wasn't lecturing me, but she was making observations. We had a really nice time here in KL. 14 months ago, I went back to Scotland. I'm sitting in my cabin in Scotland. The phone rings and she's like, I've never been to Scotland. Can I come and hang out with you? I was like, really? She's like, yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you and I want to come see you. So I was like, sure. Put the phone down, and then I thought, you know, I'm living in a cabin. I can't smoke in the cabin. She's not a smoker. It would be really disrespectful. So I have to stop smoking just out of respect for this woman who's coming to share my space, because this is like an unusual space anyway, you know. And then I'm like, okay, if I'm going to stop smoking, maybe I should stop drinking. So I was kind of like doing it for me, but I got this, the impetus was somebody's going to come and share my space. And I need to be a better version of myself to hold space for her to be here. So the idea was I'm just going to stop for a month while she's here. And then when she goes home, I can get back to it all. So the month that I didn't smoke or drink was like a major, major wake up. I just was like, wow, I'm a whole different person when I don't have alcohol in my system. I mean, I got so much more energy and I got so much more vim for life. And, you know, I was an energetic workshop presenter and I had lots going for me. And I just thought, okay, all of this sequence of events is a major, major opportunity for you to shift. So that was it. I haven't smoked another cigarette or drunk alcohol since. I had one tiny little dram to celebrate New Year's Eve, my friends in India said, "Come on, everybody's raising a glass." So I had like the tiniest taste, and apart from that, nothing. And it's not. I'm not going back there. That part of me is done, and the work that I've been able to do in the year that I've not been drinking is incredible, because all of the emotional content that was hiding under the surface, that was being suppressed by the alcohol, all came out to play. It's like, hi, okay, we're some old friends of yours that you've been ignoring for the last 30 years. So we've come to dance with you. So I had some interesting dances in the last 12 months, and I've discovered parts of myself that needed an embrace from me, not from anyone else. And I'm in the process of doing that. And I'm, it's again, maybe a cliche, but I am learning to love parts of myself that I did not love before. So I highly recommend exploration into shadow. It's not easy, but it's so worth it.
It's important to look at ourselves in whole. I do believe in processing and self-reflection, and that is a powerful piece of us being whole. I think those parts that we don't address create discontent. You mentioned alcohol, and it's a really important piece because a lot of people forget that alcohol is a depressant.
Right.
And it does not allow you to be your highest form of self. I personally don't drink. I don't offer judgment for it, but I'm very glad that you came to that realization.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's no question that that amount of alcohol in the lifetime that I had, I was the classic Irish drinking guy. I was always the last man standing, and it was kind of a badge of honor. But again, getting underneath the stories that propel you to behave in the way that you do is powerful. It's like, okay, I'm being run by a narrative that is something I've unconsciously attached to for whatever reasons, to fit in or to belong or to, please my dad or whatever the hell it was. So to unhook it and go, I can be just as vibrant. I can still be the last guy at the party. I can still be energetic. I can bring myself to my life and my work in a completely different way, because I unhooked my own personal story. And I don't have any judgment, but I've got a lot of drinking friends, some of whom are scratching their heads and going, how did you do this? And how can you be in that world now? It's like, it was so much a part of me. But I'm not going to judge anyone else for drinking, but for sure my story is that it's uncovered a very powerful part of me. And when I look back from this position for my life, what I did was not healthy. And I'm glad that I'm not doing it anymore.
So, did you have any withdrawal? You talk about large quantities of alcohol. Was there anything like
No,
that?
no withdrawal. Same with the tobacco. I just decided that was it. I'm done. Once I decided, because I think the decision was a decision from my body as much as from my mind. We're done. Stop this now. And it was like, okay, I get it. I think I got it at a level that I'd never got it before. So it wasn't it wasn't a thought. It was a whole embodied process. I'm done. And so no withdrawal. I just stopped. I mean, I noticed that I wasn't drinking for sure, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I need a drink. And now if I see somebody with a drink in their hand, I don't start foaming at the mouth. Same with the cigarettes, No, I didn't experience any withdrawal, because I think the vision was so full and so clear. That was just, we're done. Move on.
That's powerful because a lot of times I think that's it. There's not settlement between the heart and the mind,
Right.
and the body, if you want to take it a step further, to say, this is the decision that I'm making for myself. And
Right.
so it sounds like that's what you're able to do. And again, I applaud you for it. Now, you mentioned about having a food ritual. A lot of us are foodies. What does that mean in your meditation practice?
Okay, so I've had a meditation practice since my early 20s. I lived in a community of transcendental meditation back in the day with a Maharishi. So he was the guy that taught the Beatles how to meditate. So I lived in a community where we were practicing 4 hours of meditation a day. So I became kind of deeply steeped in a meditation practice. That's not my practice anymore. It's moved and changed over the years. I guess my current practice is more aligned to the Thich Nhat Hanh mindfulness kind of practice, which is really just following the breath. So when I gave up drinking, I had, one of the other reasons that I didn't bring in was that I was having, because of the emotional turmoil of ending a marriage that was over 30 years, and giving up the drink, my body did respond to not having drink. So it wasn't I didn't feel like it was a withdrawal. I just felt my body just went, ugh. Like whatever I'd been doing to it for so long, plus all the emotion of the breakup, just knocked me into a kind of, my body doesn't feel right anymore. So I'm going to have to continue to make adjustments. So I started to look at my diet, and again, having a health coach for a girlfriend is a great ally in that respect. So now I begin my mornings with a glass of warm lemon or lime water. That's the first thing that goes in. Oh no, actually the first thing I do is oil pulling. So I have some coconut oil, which I put in the mouth, and I kind of do this swilling thing. So I keep that in there for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And while I'm doing the swilling, I'm preparing my morning smoothie and squeezing the limes and getting the lime water ready. And then I have a smoothie, which is a mixture of protein powders and fruits and just basically goodness. So I'm playing around with different kinds of things just to see what lands in my body well. So I'm having my oil pull, my lime water, I have a big smoothie, and then I'll allow myself I like a cup of coffee in the morning. So I allow myself 1 cup of coffee for the day. So I have a nice, it's always good coffee, make it myself. And that goes into a little, I make myself kind of a soy cappuccino, blend it up. So I have a nice coffee, and then I'll eat a little something. And I'm eating occasional meat. And here in Malaysia, food is available everywhere. This is like food heaven. You can just buy freshly cooked food on the street everywhere, but we buy in a lot and we prepare for ourselves. So I'm, every plate that I eat is more than 50% of the plate is plant-based at every meal. I do like a bit of meat from time to time, so I'll supplement with that. But I'm mostly eating, fresh vegetables and fruit with a little bit of meat on top. And then I'm taking supplements. My morning meditation practice is essentially a breathing practice, but I'm also now using heart math again, because Charlene is a trainer in that. She's got all this kit that you put a little sensor on your ear and you plug it into the computer. And I just do my regular breathing practice, and this measures my heart rate variation and shows where you're coherent, where you're not coherent. So you get a readout. So like when I started doing the heart math thing, I was getting like, I'm 45, 50% coherent. Now I'm getting 95, 100% coherence results every morning because I'm on it. So I think 2 hours after I wake up, I'm ready to start doing some work. And I'm in I've put good food inside of me. I've done my meditation, a little bit of exercise, which might just be, in lockdown, our exercise has been funky walking. So we just put some tunes on and just, groove around the flat. And then I'm ready to sit down and, develop the program that we're working on, or I'm putting an educational story package together for schools that maybe can't access me in real life. So, yeah.
So it sounds like you might even be stronger coming out of this lockdown. Would you say that?
I think on many levels I'm stronger. The lockdown here is now almost over. There have been very, very few deaths in Malaysia because the severity of the lockdown did the job that it was supposed to do. And so now now the doors are opening, and it was interesting. We were having breakfast yesterday morning, and the traffic noise is now back to what it was pre-lockdown, and all the bird song that we've been listening to every morning has disappeared. And both of us were recognizing how lockdown was nicer in so many ways, because everything just stopped. It got quiet. It felt like the whole planet was meditating. There was this stillness that descended. And now the busyness is back, and we're slowly going to have to go back into the world and adapt to that. But I think there were lots of profound messages offered to us in lockdown as a global community, if we were paying attention, about how things could be if we slowed down a bit, and if we took care of nature a bit better than we do. Because we were watching the most incredible sunsets that you don't normally see because of the traffic pollution here in KL. There was no traffic for 2 months, and so the skies were just incredible, and all the birds were out, and it just was a reminder that personally, I think we've got the balance a little wrong in terms of how we live. Do I live in a cabin? I want my footprint to be as small as it can, and I get on planes and travel around the world to do my work. So I'm well aware of the potential for hypocrisy in that. But I think collectively, I hope collectively, we got to notice something during lockdown about how we potentially could live differently, and how a lot of the things we thought we really needed, we really don't. I hope.
I agree with you 100%. It's interesting you make reference to the birds. I actually interviewed on one of my prior shows someone associated with the National Audubon Society. And
Wow.
I said to him, I hear the birds singing and it just sounds so different to me, like they are happier. And he's like, oh no, it's spring, that's just the normal migration stuff that you're hearing. But no, it was different. It was completely different. And I do see that now that we're starting to become more active in the environment again, that there isn't as much singing. I hear some, but it's not as much as I heard before. So that part makes me sad for the environment. I am involved with conservation and climate resilience type activities. So I do want to see that love vibration raise in the planet.
Right.
And with regard to what you were saying about possible contradiction of flying for your work, I would say that what you're doing is raising the love vibration on the planet, and sometimes you got to travel to do.
I've had conversations. I've got friends who are environmentalists at the cutting edge of that conversation, and people who are protesting, and who's that's their life. That's what they're all about. They're getting on Greenpeace boats and they're doing their thing, and I applaud that. I think it's necessary, and it's not my path. And I've said to them, I've sat with this. I asked the question, my footprint and the way that I live is so way under what most people have, that I'll accept that a flight here or there is okay, because I believe the work that I'm doing is exactly as you described, raising the vibration, raising consciousness. And I, when I buy a flight ticket, I always pay extra to offset the carbon footprint. So I'm still trying to be mindful even when I fly. And I believe that, not doing what I do would be worse than doing it and getting on a plane.
Noted. So let's talk about something else. You have a way with words. Your words are beautiful. When I listen to them, just like, he could just talk for a long time. I would love to hear it. You also write poetry, correct?
I do. I write poetry. Yeah. I mean, the poetry thing is that. Ooh, what's that about? I have journals going back to when I was 18, when I just started scribbling down thoughts about where I am in the world and what's going on inside of me in reflection to that. And so I've always been a scribbler. So my poetry blog is called Paul Scribbles. Right. And a few years back, I'd kind of written a number of poems, and nobody had ever seen them. They were just for me. It was like, this is my process. I'm writing in my journal. And I can't remember the exact circumstances, but I was, trawling the internet and having a moment of perhaps not being as mindful as normal. And I went off in another direction and found this poetry community. And I was like reading through it and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And it's an open invitation to post, you can just post a poem here. You don't have to be a poet. So I was like, I've got loads of poems and no one's ever seen them. Maybe I should just post one and see what people think. So I, dipped my toe in the water. I posted, I got like one comment or a like, and then just got into conversation with a few people there. And it was on a WordPress platform. And so there were little poetry things that you could join, challenges, and they would set a challenge and say, okay, today you want to write a poem about. And so I just got into writing regularly to meet these challenges. And then before I know it, I'm being invited to become a moderator of a poetry forum and then another poetry forum. And before I know it, I'm writing full time. I'm like, write. And then it became a kind of like, after 2 years of writing full time, it was like, I can't keep this level of writing up and do the work that I'm doing. There aren't enough hours in the day to do it all and to take my photographs and to do this. And so then I kind of eased off and said, I've really enjoyed the ride of being a moderator, but I'm going to have to say that I can't do that right now time-wise, because I was starting to get called out into the world to travel more and to do more work. So I had a kind of intensive period of writing, and now I'm writing occasionally. But in the 2 years where I really put my head down and wrote, I think I composed over 1,000 poems in that period.
Wow. So where
And
do
where do they live?
Yeah. Where what happened to them?
So yeah, we've just got a slightly scratchy signal there. Paul Scribbles. It's a WordPress site. So, and there's no gap between the word Paul and the Scribbles. And I have a Facebook, Paul Scribbles, and it's a bit like my photography. I do it for the pleasure of doing it. I'm not looking for an audience. I'm not looking to sell them. I'm not looking to sell my photos. Although I have had a thought during lockdown that it might be a nice idea to combine some of my photographs and some of my poems into a book. And then the thought terrified me because I've got like 10,000 plus photographs in storage and 1,000 poems. And I'm like, oh God, that's like, where do I start? But I'll do something with it.
I hope that you do that. I actually had an idea about combining poetry, mine and others, with music, and have been working on that project. And
Okay.
I would encourage you to maybe include some of your music with it.
Well, I have one poem that is read to music.
Okay.
It's called Music Medicine. So that's out there. But yeah, maybe drumming and poetry is something I haven't explored. Perhaps that's something I can put in the pot.
I think that would be awesome. Now, I knew that your poetry was at Paul Scribbles on the WordPress site, but
Yeah.
I don't recall seeing 1,000 of them. So that's what I meant about 1,000 poems.
So when you go into the WordPress site,
Mm-hmm.
There's like a whole bunch of categories down the menu. So in each category, there's lots and lots. So if the whole of that site, there's about 1,000 poems in there, 990 something maybe. So they're just hidden in the workings. If you go to the front page and scroll down, I don't think it takes you through that many, but there are categories on the side, there's categories on the bottom. It's just one of those, go in and dip around. There's a whole section of poetry on love. There's a section on spirituality. There's a section on the environment, a whole bunch of stuff.
Beautiful. So for the listeners, go to his WordPress site. Definitely. I recommend it.
Yeah, so I didn't buy a domain, so I think it's probably just paulscribbles.wordpress.com.
Okay. Now, would you like to share one of your poems?
Oh, that's well, I had another poem that I wanted to share as an inspiration today, not one of mine.
Okay.
So I don't have one of mine to hand. So I'm going to go with the one that do you mind if I share somebody else's work?
Oh, sure, no problem. Sure. This is a free-flowing type of event. What you
Okay.
feel led to do, I trust you to do it.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of my poems are really, really long. So this is when you contacted me before I agreed to do this, and you said, bring something that's inspiration. This is a go-to inspirational piece of writing for me. And people that are in my community know that this is my kind of, when I have a moment of like, this is what being together is all about, I reach for this thing and I bring it out. And this is a, a writer. She's called Starhawk. She's a feminist writer based in the US. She's an environmentalist. She's an amazing woman. This is called Community. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned, we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends. Some place where we can be free.
That's beautiful. That's one of those things you have to sit with for a moment.
It's a powerful piece. It's from a book called Dreaming the Dark. Yeah, incredible writer, incredible human being, and I get goosebumps every time I read that thing.
Yeah, I just kind of closed my eyes and listened to it. It was just like comforting
Yeah,
and honest.
it
You
very
know,
much is. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. I'm recovering from that moment, just kind of sitting with it. Yeah, wow. So it's kind of like, oh wow. So what was I going to ask you? So I love that. Now you talk about community, and you
Hmm,
chose a poem that was so moving about community. Right now, we're dealing with people wanting community,
hmm,
in those who are disenfranchised and also feel disenfranchised, like the Black
right.
Lives Matter movement, which
Yeah.
you support. And I
Yes.
thank you for doing that. Why are you supporting it?
Where to start with this? It's such a powerful moment again for the world, and I'm noticing the polarization in the world more and more. I'm not a hugely political animal, but I will stand on the side of the line where I believe I need to stand if that comes to me and I'm asked. So I've worked with people of color all my life, and I see color and I celebrate it. Let's just begin. The first thing that I have always accepted and have always known is this concept of privilege. I'm at the top of the privilege tree. I'm a white man, and I'm at the top of the gender tree, and I'm at the top of the race privilege tree. And I fully accept that and have done all my life. And as a result of that, I want to support the Black community in whatever way I can. And I don't get to decide what that looks like. So I have been listening deeply and hearing the call for allies to behave like this. So I've stuck up a new page on my website, which has got a list of resources that people can go check out. I'm reading more. I mean, I think I was aware to a degree, but there's always more. So I just had this. I'm reading a book at the moment called My Grandmother's Hands by um, Resma Manakin, and it's talking about the embodiment. White body supremacy is the phrase that he uses in the book. So this is about how it lives inside of us. And, he goes through some really interesting historical stuff about how the white European culture did this to itself before it exported it to various other parts of the world and got heavily involved in the slave trade. When George Floyd was murdered and that video appeared on my timeline, I had to watch it. I had to watch it. And it broke my heart to watch it. And I'm not black. I don't know what it's like. It doesn't matter how many black friends I've got. It doesn't matter how many times I've visited Africa. I don't get fearful when the police pull me over. I think maybe I've been speeding, or maybe I wasn't driving in a straight line, or maybe my van's a bit of an old crock and they probably think I've stolen it. But I don't ever fear for my life. If I walk past the police in the UK, I don't ever fear for my life. I don't have that in my consciousness. So I will never understand that. I can't. And so all I can do is recognize that brothers and sisters of mine who are black in the world have to live with that, and that's not okay. And so all I can do in support of them is to say it's not okay, and get into some slightly uncomfortable conversations. For me, it's like, okay, I've discovered a few people that I've known for a long time. They're a little bit racist, when this stuff comes out and people start to make comments and you're kind of like, wow, really? You're there? Okay. I have to tell you that that's not okay with me. It's not okay that you're coming around with these kinds of statements or posting this kind of stuff on your Facebook line. I'm not okay with it. And to the point where, I'll unfriend you. I'm not going to hang around with racists. It's not okay. I just think it's a conversation that has been needing to happen forever, and it will go on needing to happen. But right now, maybe this is another envelope push for humanity. Maybe we can actually break out of the envelope we've all been in and create a different kind of world. And at the same time, I'm totally aware of the polarization and the craziness that's coming back at the Black Lives Matter community. It's almost like it's enraging some people, and I don't get that. But there are people out there that don't think like I think and don't see the world the way I see it. So for me, it's a matter of, I can't not say something about this moment.
I applaud you for saying that and for also taking action and having the resources available for people on your website to explain what they can do. I'm actually building out my website and rebranding. And one of the things that I'm doing for my larger company, Arlene Speaks, which produces God and Matter, is to have resources for people, because sometimes people feel helpless. And some
Right.
people have racism that's been ingrained in them and taught to them
Of
by
course.
people that they loved and respected. So that's what they know. And so I think that
Right.
some of the pushback that you see is because people are feeling threatened and fearful themselves.
Sure.
Go ahead.
There's a degree of ignorance involved in that, and it's never an excuse. Go educate. Don't come back at me with an argument that's based in ignorance. You have to go read a book and you have to go figure it out. And if it's making you feel uncomfortable, get over it. It's not in the scheme of things that, me feeling a little bit uncomfortable about what somebody's saying is not comparable to me thinking I might get shot at this traffic light by this cop. It's not even on the same page. So, from my resources are the same. It's an educational link. People that have a desire to learn will go there. People that are entrenched in their own racist beliefs will not even give it a consideration. I don't know how you reach people that don't want to be reached. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and conversation and wanting to listen as much as you want to be heard.
Yeah.
It might sound cliche, but I do believe that that is powerful. I also think that expression needs to transcend words, to have art. You said something that registered with me very deeply. I don't typically watch videos of police violence, and I'm never really good at making it to the end of a video. But something in my spirit, in my core, said, watch this video.
Right.
And I sat there watching it and I thought, Like, I don't even own TV, okay? So I
Mm,
watched this and I thought, I cannot believe that this is truly happening.
right,
This man is crying, this man is begging, where is their humanity?
right.
And it, so it struck me to see what was happening. And for people who are able to look past that video and dismiss it, and who are also uncomfortable in hearing the discussion, it might be an opportunity for self reflection to say,
Mm,
what makes me so uncomfortable that somebody just says, I want to live?
right, right. And therein we're kind of back to the consciousness part of the conversation, and again, without sounding judgmental, the ability to self-reflect requires the ability to self-reflect, you know and maybe you get there through experience. Maybe watching that video is a tipping point for someone who's never really reflected on these matters, and maybe it makes them think about it, or maybe it entrenches them further. I've had some bizarre conversations with people about the video, and about whether it's even real.
Really?
Oh yeah, like there's a whole bunch out there who think it's fake. So what do you do with that? When someone brings that conversation, it's like, okay, we're so far apart here, I don't even know where the bridge is.
Sometimes you have to agree to disagree,
And just walk away, right?
unfortunately, for your preservation and also for the good that you can do elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned your website. Could you say that so that people will know where to go and find you?
So the primary website is Rhythm Bridge. That's one word, RhythmBridge.com. And rhythm and bridge. It's a metaphor. It's all about connecting one side to the other. And again, in the work that I do, I've had people. We had this thing called Brexit in the UK a few years
Yes.
back. I, at that time, was doing this journey just before the Brexit thing erupted. I did a rhythmical journey from the very northern point of the British Isles to the very southern point. I traveled in my van full of drums for 26 days, and I stopped in a variety of communities along the way and did a facilitated drum circle with whoever showed up. I had people on both sides of the argument playing music together. And at least for a moment in the day, the argument got put aside and people connected. So for me, there is something very powerful about, the bridge metaphor and people being on either side of whatever the divide is, whether it's a river or whether it's a political divide or whether it's a racial divide. We can always build bridges. That's my deepest held belief. I won't stop trying to do that because somebody appears unreachable. There's always a way, and rhythm has a way of connecting people without words, without the need for a conversation. We can just find some commonality in the rhythm because each of us has a heart that beats.
But I kind of observe, I don't post as much since my dad passed away because that was a new time for me. And
I'm sorry to hear about that.
thank you. And, but I do pay attention to what you do. And
You're
I,
my stalker?
yeah, I'm one of those people who like, well, what is he doing now? You know, and I'm always impressed. And sometimes you send me invites, and I'm like, oh, if I could go across the pond right now, I
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
go into one of his workshops. And I do share
Hmm.
your events when you ask me to.
I have noticed.
And I do that because I respect who you are, and I respect what you want to do. And not having had the benefit of a lengthy conversation until now, I can
Hmm.
see that my intuition, my heart, that love vibration that I try to maintain connected with yours to say, you're an awesome person. And I'm so very glad that you gave of your time and you are coming from Kuala Lumpur to say what you had to say. I hope that people will find you and that you will get to share even your greater strengths that you have now as a result of this quiet time that you've had and this healing and rejuvenation period that you've had. Um, Thank you for being. One of the questions I normally ask people is what inspires you to be? So maybe as we close out, I am going to play for people the drumming that you shared with me, which was really beautiful. I did a meditation with it. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I did. I love drumming circles. I've actually been to drumming circles, and
Okay.
there's something refreshing about it.
So
But
that particular piece, just so you know, is a drum circle with just me in it.
really,
Yeah, yeah. So a friend of mine was he's a DJ in Scotland. Was he's kind of got a big fan base in Scandinavia, and he wanted to record a piece that had real live drumming in it. So I went to his studio and recorded some samples for him, so he could cut and paste and play with them however he wanted. And the payment that he offered me was a chance to record a track for myself. So what I sent you is that's me just jamming with myself. So it's kind of multi-layered, I just laid down one track and then just put all kinds of stuff on top of it. So it was me just in free flow, not teaching, not thinking about what to, just me playing. So I really like the track because it's in terms of my rhythmical spirit, it's all in there.
well, it's a beautiful track, and I hope that our listeners will enjoy it as well. As I said, I did a morning meditation to it.
Cool.
So it was a good way to start the day. So, what inspires you to be?
Wow. We got another 45 minutes. Part two. What inspires me? That's a really, really good question. I think that life itself, in all its multifaceted beauty, is what inspires me. So I can, if I take my camera out for a walk, I can get inspired by a flower. I can just get blown away by a flower. I can get inspired by a bird. I can get inspired by a piece of music. I can get inspired by a mountain. I can get inspired by a beautiful human being like you. Life is,
Thank you.
and I believe that I am a participant in this dance. If I'm open, if my heart is open, everything that's happening in life is reflecting back some kind of gift, some kind of beauty, even the difficult stuff. I talked about the shadow journey earlier on. So collectively, globally, we're looking at some shadow stuff right now. And if we look deeply and we look with open hearts, we'll figure it out. And so I think I find inspiration everywhere. It's all over the place. It's like the whole thing is an inspiring, if you just think about the miracle of life, how absolutely miraculous it is just to even be here. Like getting here is a miracle. And then being here is a miracle. So like every day, be grateful, I guess, for the blessing that we have, that we can do what we can do and that we can be the people that we want to be. So yeah, everything inspires me,
As it should,
I guess. Yeah.
as it should. That's living, that's the continuum.
Yeah.
Paul, it was amazing to talk to you today. Thank you for giving your time and sharing your talents and insight. I wish you so many blessings, and I am expecting great vibrations of love to fill the earth because of you. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thanks for having me. And I, right at the beginning of this, I talked to you about that feeling that I have, when I know that it's something I have to do and it might be a little uncomfortable, So there were some nerves about doing a podcast and just opening my mouth because sometimes maybe I put my foot in it. And I'm sitting here now with this absolute feeling of expansion. Like I just so enjoyed having this conversation with you. My heart is fully open. I feel really seen and heard by you. You're an amazing listener. You ask kick-ass questions. And I'm really grateful that you showed up in my life in this way this morning. So thank you. Beautiful thing.
Thank you. I'm not
You're
going to cry.
welcome.
I'm just moved. I am truly moved. Thank you
Me
so
too.
much.
Me too.
I
Amazing
will,
conversation to have.
thank you. It was amazing for me as well. I will see you around and continue to share what you're doing. And I'm going to start going through Paul's scribbles and get through those poems.
Okay.
Okay? Take care.
Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now we hear a song from Paul John Deere, and it's a video presentation. So for those of you who watch it on YouTube, you'll be able to actually see him and stories from his life through photographs, as well as listening to the music. Did you love John Paul Deere? I did. I loved everything that he had to say. I love his commitment to people. I love that he's a photographer. I love that he's a poet. I love that he drums. I love that he fought addiction. I love that he loved himself enough to make change. There are lessons to be learned from this interview. He's a rhythmic bridge, and I hope that you enjoyed his song. I did. Next time on God and Matter, our guest will be Denisha Prendergrass, the granddaughter of Bob Marley. It was fascinating to speak with her from her home in Toronto. We talked about many things, many relevant things, prior to the current unrest, but during this season of pandemic. Thank you for listening to God and Matter. God and Matter is produced by Arlene Speaks Media. Please visit our YouTube channel, Arlene Speaks Media, or listen to us on castbox.fm, which distributes God and Matter. For more information about me, your host, Arlene J.M. Grant, or the show, please visit our website, godandmatter.com. Until next time, be well.